Welcome to this tutorial series where you'll learn how to build a full stack application using Next.js 13, Tailwind CSS and Firebase. Along the way you will learn some amazing technologies like using Next.js for building out your front end, using Firebase authentication for signing in and registering your users, as well as Firebase firestore as the database. We will also have a look at implementing firestore rules for protecting the data and ensuring that only authorized users are able to update, delete and create data. We will also have a look at using Tailwind CSS for styling our project. Tailwind is a fantastic utility-based CSS library for customizing our project. Let's have a look at the project that we'll be building. If the user is not authenticated, they will be presented with this screen. They can then use Google to authenticate themselves. After successfully logging in, the user will be presented with this dashboard. Here they will be able to capture their income, they will also be able to capture their expenses and add it to an existing category, or they can also go ahead and create a new category. We will also allow the user to select a unique color and add the expense. You will also notice some stats at the bottom of the page. We will use chart.js to generate this donut chart, which gives the user a clear breakdown of their expenses. Users will also be able to make some changes. As an example, they can click on any of the expenses and remove any of the expense items. They can also adjust the income entries. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I know you will learn a lot of new skills along the way. Alright then, let's get started. So first off, open up a new project using an IDE of your choice. In my case, I'm using VS Code. For our tracker application, we'll be using Next.js to build out the front end. If you're not familiar with Next.js, it's a powerful React framework that can be used to build full stack applications. In order to set up a new Next project, we can follow the instructions in the documentation. It simply involves executing the following command. In VS Code, we can use the build in terminal to execute the command. Since we're already in the working directory, I'm not going to specify a project name. It will inherit the name from the folder. So we can just enter a period. We won't be using TypeScript, we won't be using ESLint, we won't be using the source directory, but we will be using the app directory, which is new in Next 13. After the setup is complete, you'll have the following files available in your folder. I'll just go through each of them with a brief explanation. The app directory represents the pages of your project. Next.js follows a very specific naming convention for its files. In this case, page.js represents the index page at the root of our project. Layout.js is like a wrapper file that wraps page.js and can also be used to include other components like the navigation and footer. Head.js is the HTML header section, which can be used to include metadata like the page title, keywords, description. Globals.css includes the global styling for our application. The Node modules folder includes all the dependencies of our project. The pages folder was used in previous versions of Next.js and is now being replaced by the app folder. We can actually go ahead and delete this folder altogether. The public folder includes all public assets for the project, like images as an example. We can spin up a local dev server by entering npm run dev. You should see a link in the console. If you see this demo Next.js page loading up, it means that your setup was complete. We can now continue setting up the project for our demo. We'll start by removing any files that we don't need. As an example, this page.module.css files can be deleted. We'll be using Tailwind CSS to style our page. We can also clear out all the styles in the globals.css file. In our page file, we can also delete any lines that we don't need or remove everything at the top of the page. Let's also remove all of this content. We'll just add hello world for now. After saving these changes, the server should automatically refresh. And going back to our page, we can see the changes were loading automatically. Next up, we'll install Tailwind CSS in order to style the website. For this, I recommend going to the Tailwind website and following the instructions in the documentation. We can click on Get Started, go to Framework Guides, and click on Next.js. We've already executed step 1. This was to set up the Next.js project, so we'll continue with step 2. I'll just copy this line. We'll stop the development server by pressing Ctrl C on Windows. I think it's Command C on Mac. I'll paste in that command. Also init the Tailwind project. This will create a Tailwind config file. Then the documentation is telling us to just copy all of this and to replace the contents in the Tailwind config file with this. We won't be using the source directory, so I'll just remove those lines. Now we need to add these 3 lines to the globals.css file. And that should be it. Let's run our development server again. After refreshing the page, you should see that the styles are all defaulted now. So back in our page.js file, we can add some classes to this header. We can do that by typing class name. And here we can add Tailwind utility classes by typing something like text dash 2XL. We can also make the font heavier by typing something like font and bold. And we can see those changes reflecting immediately. I highly recommend going through the Tailwind documentation to find all these utility classes. Documentation is really easy to follow and very easy to use. I recommend installing the Tailwind VS Code extension. This extension will give you auto-completion while typing out the styles. You can do this by clicking on the extensions menu and looking for this extension over here. It's called Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. Right, I think that concludes the initial setup of our project. In the next video, we'll be working on styling and layout. See you then.